Yes, sir.
Is all your work done in brush, or do you use a pen at all?
I use a product that made my favorite Castell. They're called Pitt brush pens, and it's a family of markers that use archival ink. They have a brush pen, and then they have every, medium, fine, super fine. So I find I use those now for everything. If I'm working really large on something, I'll still use India ink and a normal brush, but I don't have the same control with it. And I've been using the Pitt pens now for so long, the brush is almost a foreign object to me, so it takes me time to get proficient again. But yeah, I love those markers and those little brushes. They're inexpensive, so you can throw them away when they start to fray or get weird on the ends. If you're doing a paying job, it's, costs you $1 a page, I guess, to use these things and just throw them away. But it's a lot easier than dipping, drying, blotting, waiting. And that's a big part of it too. I like to produce work. I like to see a lot of work get produced. It's what keeps me going, When we're in production on one of these books, I got to get 12 pages a week under my belt, or else I don't have the momentum to keep going. So I need a way to work where there's not a lot of waiting, a lot of delays. You see the guys, you look at Jeff Darlow's work, or Kaluta, for example, or any of these guys. And man, it must just, the painstaking, and I'm the opposite, right? I'm like, and that's the way I like it. Right? Just keep it big and open.
Sort of a second part to that technical question. What do you letter with?
Same thing.
You actually letter with that?
The favorite, no, I use they have fine liners in the family of pens, so I use their S weight, if that matters technically, for lettering and fine lines, things like that.
Well, you might notice that Cal State LA buys a lot of the books that you do, and that's because I teach in 2 different classes.
Oh, that's great.
And one of the things is trying to get MFA directors to learn how to adapt a story
right.
for film in their own way, and of course I let them see your adaptation. If you could give me something I could bring back to the class in regards to what's the inspiration when you make that decision, this works in the novel, but for me to go this way visually, I've got to make this adaptation. What is there anything I can throw at the class and say this is what the man said?
Well, I suppose. There's really 2 reasons to adapt something. Either it's junk that has a brilliant kernel in it that you can take and elevate, or it's something brilliant that you just want to be able to translate to a larger audience. So that dictates what you do. I go into the Stark books not looking to change them. I'm looking to try to give my reader the experience I had when I read the prose through my approach to it. So I'm going to be very cautious before I change something, because I'm adapting to achieve what he's got in a different medium. So what's a filmable scene or not almost becomes irrelevant. It becomes my challenge to figure out how to present it. Every scene has to be there, unless it's a scene I'm excising completely for whatever reason. So I think your question is maybe one step deeper in than I would go. I'd step out just that much to say, why are you adapting it? And if it's because, well, it had this kick-ass ending, it's the most horrible book I've ever read, but the ending was so novel, well, that's one thing, where you're going to cut something out of whole cloth to tie it into this wonderful idea you found in the book. Try to figure out at the very beginning, try to evaluate if you actually respect the work you're about to adapt. And that might sound like a simple question or a stupid question, but it's not. Like, do you have any respect for it? And if you do, then you should be approaching it respectfully. And if you don't, well, then be as cavalier as you care to be, as long as you're willing to back up what you do. But, Hollywood pays so much, it's for decades, the stories about adaptation down there. And we see it, look, I've seen Cattleman, I don't know how many times. How can you get something so simple so wrong? So I think you have to, when you're adapting, you got to keep in mind, you know, it isn't all about you, and there's a reason you decided to adapt this, and what was that reason? And are you amplifying that to your reader, or are you trying to make it like something for yourself? You know, so these questions become important, I think. And if the reader's your concern, you know, then, and you thought the original work was worthy, then geez, be careful when you're going to go in and muck with it.
Isn't there, you changed something in Hunter, the dream sequence, right?
Yeah, well, again, there's a sequence in The Hunter where his wife has betrayed him, he's been left for dead, he's come back, and he shows up on her doorstep, and after an emotional scene, she ends up going to bed, and he goes to lay down on the couch, and it's the only time the author in 23 books points to the fact that Parker's afraid of him. It's the only time is in that book as he lays down. The prose indicates it wasn't that he had no feeling for his wife anymore. It was, he was scared of her. And I thought this is too important a thing just to let go by. This is a very important statement about him and how he feels about women or things that affect his control over his situation. So I thought the notion of her coming to him in his dream helps show that he's still haunted by her, that he's still obviously got strong feelings for her, that he's trying to ignore. And so at a time like that, it's like I'm not contradicting the nature of what he wrote as much as I'm trying to find a visual way to make sure everybody gets it. Everybody stops for a second and lets that sink in.
That was very, very effective.
Because he's a one-dimensional character. And so whenever one of those nuggets are there, you have to make sure that people pick up on it. Because it's the only way to humanize a guy like that. Unless you're going to give him a dog and all that nonsense they do in Hollywood, right? You know, if anything, I think it'd be a wonderful lesson for you to take it all. Take Point Blank, take both cuts of Payback, take my book, and then take The Hunter. And have your class sort of look at it from every angle.
You know, I appreciate you saying I'm doing that right now, except I'm not doing both cuts of Payback.
Right, okay, that's probably a little much.
But I am doing that, so thank you. That makes me feel like I'm on the right track.
Well, it also shows you, you know, what a fascinating book and character it really is, because it is. You're able to interpret it. You know, it's really a pretty open story. And if you want to get into non-literal interpretations, you get into things like Ringo Lam's Full Contact with Chow Yun-fat. There are all kinds of movies that use this story as a springboard. And it's amazing to see how a great story can translate into anything. Hong Kong action, you know, hardcore avant-garde, straight up crime thriller. You know, it's got everything you need at its base to take it anywhere. Some girls are falling asleep. Somebody give us some more juice.